जाओ खेलो।
मैं भी अपने बच्चे को एक्टिव देखना चाहती हूँ।
इस उम्र में बच्चों को एक्टिव रहने के लिए बोन्स का स्ट्रॉन्ग होना भी जरूरी है। मैं इसे देती हूँ नेस्ले लैक्टो ग्रो विद एक्टिव ग्रो, जिसमें शामिल है प्रोबायोटिक्स और खास न्यूट्रिएंट्स बच्चों की ग्रोइंग बोन्स के लिए। नेस्ले लैक्टो ग्रो एक्टिव विद एक्टिव ग्रो। नेस्ले
न्यू एंड इम्प्रूव सेंसोडाइन रैपिड एक्शन 60 सेकंड्स में सेंसिटिविटी से आराम देता है। मैं रेकमेंड करती हूँ सेंसोडाइन रैपिड एक्शन बिकॉज इट वर्क्स।
Unwrap the perfect cornetto.
खाला ने जो कपड़े भेजे हैं सारे बड़े हैं।
अच्छी बात है, तुम देखना कितनी जल्दी फिट आ जाएंगे। पहले साल में बच्चों का कद तकरीबन 1.5 गुना बढ़ता है, इसीलिए तो इसे सेरेलैक भी खिलाना है। नेस्ले सेरेलैक विद स्पेशल न्यूट्रीब्लेंड, जिसकी ग़िज़ाइयत से भरा ब्लेंड बच्चों की हड्डियों को बढ़ने में मदद करे। समझदार माँ
और दादी का इंतखाब नेस्ले सेरेलैक, नन्हे पेट की बड़ी ग़िज़ा।
क्या कर रही हो?
प्याज स्मेल कर रही हूँ।
वो क्यों?
मेरी फ्रेंड ने कहा कि प्याज बालों में लगाने से बाल घने और मजबूत होते हैं।
हाँ।
लगाऊंगी तो स्मेल आएगी और नहीं लगाऊंगी तो बाल अच्छे कैसे होंगे?
अगर प्याज में स्मेल ना आए तो?
इम्पॉसिबल।
पॉसिबल। लाइफ बॉय नेचुरली स्ट्रॉन्ग शैम्पू से। इसमें है खास प्याज और एलोवेरा जो दे 5 गुना तक मजबूत बाल बगैर किसी स्मेल के।
मामा कर सकती है सब पॉसिबल।
लाइफ बॉय शैम्पू, प्याज की ताकत लिए। मीठे चौसा मैंगो से बना न्यू क्रीमी समर डिलाइट। बनाओ बड़ी बकेट का बड़ा मजा स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम ओनली ₹800। पीकाबू।
बिना कहे भी मेरा प्यार हर पल तुम्हारे साथ होता है, तुम्हारी हर जरूरत का ख्याल रखता है। छोटे होते हो तो हर पल को महफूज बनाता है, थोड़े से बड़े होते हो तो हर रोज कुछ नया सिखाता है, और फिर यही प्यार स्कूल के बढ़ते चैलेंजेस में तुम्हारी हर जीत को पॉसिबल बनाता है। इसीलिए तुम्हारे हर बढ़ते कदम पर नीडो और मेरा प्यार हर पल साथ। नीडो, मामा के प्यार का इजहार। फ्रॉम नेस्ले।
Thanks for staying with us. Let's get back into it. Now, as you're mentioning that it's very difficult to adapt, one of the things that possibly at state level or the policy making level we need to know that given the 2050 or 2060 period, like every country is coming up with strategies, what do you think
एयरपोर्ट सिक्योरिटी फोर्स ने इस्लामाबाद एयरपोर्ट पर कार्रवाई करते हुए दुबई जाने वाली परवाज पर मुसाफिर से 4.5 किलोग्राम आइस बरामद कर ली है। इस पर हम बात करते हैं डॉन न्यूज़ के रिपोर्टर सईद वसीम से। वसीम, बताइएगा ये परवाज कहां से कहां जा रही थी?
जी बिल्कुल, ये परवाज जो है वो इस्लामाबाद से जो है वो दुबई के लिए रवाना हो रही थी। एयरपोर्ट सिक्योरिटी फोर्स के अमले ने बर्वक्त कार्रवाई करते हुए एक मुसाफिर को जो है वो रोका और उसके सामान की जब तलाशी ली गई तो स्कूटर के जो इंजन होता है उसमें महारत के साथ ये 4.5 किलोग्राम आइस जो है वो उसमें छुपा कर रखी हुई थी, जिसको बरामद किया गया है। मुलजिम को इब्तदाई तफ्तीश के बाद मजीद कानूनी कार्रवाई के लिए बरामदशुदा मंशियात के साथ एंटी नारकोटिक फोर्स के हवाले कर दिया गया है।
बहुत शुक्रिया सैयद वसीम, आपने अपडेट किया।
आइए देखते हैं प्रोग्राम का बाकी हिस्सा।
Wet bulb temperature. So the WBGT and the WBT are two slightly different ways of measuring heat. So the WBGT is slightly more wholesome. The WBT is slightly limited. So in the WBGT, there are 4 major environmental heat factors that are taken into account: air temperature, humidity, radiant heat, which is, for instance, sunlight, and also air movement. This is wind and ventilation. And the WBGT is very, very commonly used, for instance, by the military, by athletes, by hygienists, and in sporting events to determine appropriate exposure levels to high temperature, right? And the humidity factor, particularly important. And the WBGT is also sort of the contraption or the technology that measures WBGT relies on 3 sensors, right? Which the WBT does not. So it relies on a dry bulb thermometer, which is measuring the air temperature, a natural wet bulb thermometer, which is taking humidity into consideration, and a black globe thermometer, which then accounts for the interactions between all of these, right? The WBT does not take these 3 sensors into account. Now, there is a certain limitation with the WBGT, and this addresses the second part of your question, that how do we act? Now, for instance, the WBGT assumes that when it makes these measures and it comes up with the heat index, it assumes that people are generally outside, that they are clothed in uniform-like materials, they're engaged consistently in a moderate level of exertional activity. Now, this is a great heat index to use outdoors, but it is not a reliable index when we start thinking about, for instance, indoor overheating, right? Where you have people who are largely sedentary, or where poor housing conditions create an overheating factor, for instance, in informal settlements or low-income settlements, within schools that are under-resourced, jails and prisons, for instance, even hospital or emergency rooms where there isn't enough infrastructure available, cooling systems available. So then what kind of indices should you rely on, right? So here, there are heat budget models, for instance, right? Which are at the micro scale and the meso scale for reading adaptation. They can be used to both seasonal and longer term planning, right? And in relation to climate change scenarios. So these are the indices that I would very, very quickly like to highlight. It's the Universal Thermal Climate Index, or the UTC. There's the perceived temperature, physiologically equivalent temperature, or the PET, and the standard effective temperature, with the SET. These are really, really quite detailed ways of intervening at the micro level and the meso level to try and understand what is the impact of extreme heat on the human body. However, and there's a catch here, that these kinds of models have extremely high data requirements. And these are not available in countries like Pakistan. So when we start talking about what kinds of interventions we should design, I come back, I made my notes here, I come back to that very important, thing that it's crucial to ask that what kind of heat matters to the human body, what kinds of outcomes matter, what are the behaviors that are assumed. And then all of this is contingent upon what kind of data can be generated for us to be able to design policy, action and intervention, especially at the micro scale. And this is the most challenging scenario right now for us, especially in urban centers and cities across Pakistan generally.
That was Dr. Nausheen Anwar, explaining to us how climate change is not just a physical threat. It's harming our bodies, it's harming our mental health, from disruption to sleep patterns, to average working hours, to incomes, especially for low and middle income communities. It's going to be a very deep impact. In our final segment, we have one question. Where do we go from here? Now, South Asia as a region is continuously facing these threats. Floods in Pakistan, heat waves in India, cyclones in Bangladesh, then the warming, especially in the Indo-Malaya region. These are impacts that are going to stay and become long-term, have consequences on the more than 2 billion people that inhabit this particular region. This requires a lot of solidarity, especially among the regional countries, the communities, and the people. Exchange ideas, understand these issues, and work collectively for them. What could be some of the solutions, as we discussed with experts as well? Especially advancing science is the #1 priority for a lot of academics. And this should also be understood in the context of policy making, which requires the evidence to actually make policies that are helpful for our communities. We also saw how Dr. Padsai pointed out that adaptation is a need now. Heat waves are becoming more occurred. This is the new norm. So adapting to them is going to be very important. What would be those measures in place? We need to understand the traditional practices, especially in the southern parts where heat has been an issue for centuries, and then adapt these practices to become more communal as well as policy-oriented outcomes to drive the changes in these communities, as well as taking these learnings to other parts in the region where heat is now increasing. From city level to state level to regional level, we need heat wave protocols, which includes sharing of weather data, but also how to react to extreme heat, including heat wave management plans at the very micro level. Our cities also need to be reimagined. The asphalt that has been poured in our cities in development also needs to come with greener infrastructure. We need green spaces, we need parks, we need shaded walkways, we need public transport, we need reduced emissions. So all of these things have to be oriented for a multi-sectoral solution, which can come through government and policymakers. Of course, a lot of this is going to require financial resources and money. This is where climate emitters must pay. They have to pay for the mitigation and adaptation for South Asia's countries or the cities that require the money to build the green infrastructure. And we should also recognize how climate disasters have already contributed to losses of many millions. People have lost homes to floods. People have lost lives or their income opportunities by using livestock or agriculture. It's impacting millions of lives in South Asia. Their stories are not just tragedies. These are also warnings and offer lessons for us and policymakers to take the problem of climate disasters, particularly extreme heat, very seriously. Of course, the final question is, can South Asia really come together to exchange knowledge, to work together, both locally and internationally, and take on extreme heat and other climate disasters face off? You've been watching Front Seat to Climate Change. For the full episode, head to Dawn News English on YouTube and follow our social media pages. I'm Dawabat. I'll see you next Sunday, 11 p.m. right here on Dawn News.
Peekaboo.
बिना कहे भी मेरा प्यार हर पल तुम्हारे साथ होता है, तुम्हारी हर जरूरत का ख्याल रखता है। छोटे होते हो तो हर पल को महफूज बनाता है, थोड़े से बड़े होते हो तो हर रोज कुछ नया सिखाता है, और फिर यही प्यार स्कूल के बढ़ते चैलेंजेस में तुम्हारी हर जीत को पॉसिबल बनाता है। इसीलिए तुम्हारे हर बढ़ते कदम पर नीडो और मेरा प्यार हर पल साथ। नीडो, मामा के प्यार का इजहार। फ्रॉम नेस्ले।
एलाइड बैंक लाया माई एबीएल कॉइन्स, जो बनाए ट्रांजैक्शंस को रिवॉर्डिंग। यूज करें अपना एलाइड डेबिट या क्रेडिट कार्ड इन स्टोर या ऑनलाइन, और अर्न करें माई एबीएल कॉइन्स, जो रियल टाइम में रिडीम हो एलाइड मार्केट प्लेस से, कभी भी कहीं भी, जहां से मिले मोबाइल फोन्स एंड एक्सेसरीज, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, गिफ्ट वाउचर्स और एयर टिकट्स भी। इसके अलावा माई एबीएल कॉइन्स एक्सचेंज करने की भी सहूलत। माई एबीएल कॉइन्स, स्पेंड मोर, अर्न मोर। एलाइड बैंक, आपके दिल में हमारा अकाउंट।
जाओ खेलो।
मैं भी अपने बच्चे को